Well, thanks for sitting down to do this. I wandered by and saw AM Builder, a license plate that I have seen in Tamworth for is it decades? How long has AM Builder been in?
Since 2000.
Since 2000.
Yeah.
And you are the A.
I'm the A.
You are Marc Addison.
Yes.
And tell me about AM Builders and
So I relocated to Tamworth in '99, built my house, and what I did was my father-in-law at the time, Peter White, White's Welding,
okay.
he started building his house on Summit View Drive, and I came up to help him build the house. And then after the house was tight to the weather, a roughed-in kitchen, I moved my family here, and it was my wife Nancy and my daughter Maddie, as everybody knows her, and Chris. And so Peter had already made really good friends with Harry Davison. And then,
And who's he? I don't know him.
so Harry is married to Susan Davison, and they have two adopted boys. One unfortunately passed away in a tragic car chase about 5 years ago. Jake.
Okay.
So Jake passed away. Anyways, Harry and Susan's three kids are Jake and Will. And then, surprise, that she got pregnant and oh my God, Kate, and had Kate.
Okay.
So Peter became really good friends with Harry, who owned property, just land, immediately behind where Peter built. Then Skip, my partner, Skip Mason, was the brother-in-law of Harry. Harry's married to Susan. Their maiden name is Larrabee.
Okay.
And Julie. So Susan and Julie, sisters. Harry's married to Susan. Skip's married to Julie. So I met, through Peter, I met that group of people. Harry and Susan, Skip and Julie. Harry and Susan didn't have kids at the time. Skip and Julie had kids my same kids' age. So when I moved here, my kids were 7 or 8 and 4. And I lived in Peter's house that I helped build while I started building mine.
And when you were building yours, did you build it with Skip?
I built it with a lot of friends from where I moved from in Marblehead, Mass, North Shore, Mass. I lived in Lynn, but all my work at the time was in Marblehead. And so Skip helped more after I had the whole house built. The roof was on, windows were in, and then I was still commuting back and forth to Mass to work.
Doing the same sort of thing, building and
doing what I've done for 40 years.
Okay.
And then my wife and kids were here, and I work 4 days a week, come home on Thursday, 3 days here.
Yeah.
But so anyways, Skip worked at Remick Farm.
So what was the moment though? When did you know that you and Skip were going to be business partners? Because it goes from meeting and helping a friend, kind of shingle or whatever else you do.
He had been helping a little bit on weekends, and then he was working at the Remick Farm, and they were doing the hay, and he got really mad at who he answered to, and he showed up at the door just furious and said, "I just quit Remick Farm." I said, "Skip, help me finish the house, and as soon as we're done with the house, let's start a business." And
that must have been a quick yes, because here you are with the license plate that says the two of you are in business together.
Yeah, so then we chose AM Builders. And then when we went to register with the Secretary of State, someone down south had like AM Construction. So Secretary of State said, no, that won't work. So we did the long version, which it stood for, was Addison Mason.
Okay.
And then the first 2 years, we both commuted to Mass. Or the first year and a half,
Now, is it because he was living down there, or he
No,
worked with you down there?
he's from Conway
Okay.
originally, and Julie is a Tamworth native.
Mm-hmm.
So at the time, they had just built their home on Durrell Road. And then the first year and a half, we both commuted down,
Mm-hmm.
back down to where I had established work.
Mm-hmm.
And then slowly, as we started getting work up here, then Skip stayed here full time, and I still commuted a little bit. And then as soon as we had plenty of work.
Yeah. So other than working, which is, what are some of the other things that you remember that marked your arrival into Tamworth? I mean, some of the
What
activities.
do I remember? Jumping off the covered bridge that hopefully will get put back over the river next year.
Which one?
The covered bridge, which they pulled off of the Bear Camp River. Oh, geez, it's been sitting on the Tamworth side. Well, they're both Tamworth side, but it's been sitting on the Whittier side for 7-8 years, maybe.
And so you jumped off of it into the river?
Yeah. So that's like the first thing. We're going up to Cold River up
Okay.
on Mountain Road.
Mm-hmm.
The winters, all of a sudden, like so much snow,
Uh-huh.
it's like shovel.
Uh-huh. And not so much in Marblehead because it's on the ocean and.
Yeah, just at the time, and a ton more snow.
Yeah. Now, we were talking a little bit before we started filming. You are a big fan of the Grateful Dead.
Yes.
Yeah. So what are some of the other, well, maybe they're the only form of music that's worth listening to, but I'm curious.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
not at all.
Yeah. So like when you're out working, what do you listen to?
Well, now that before we had like the smartphones, it was always just the radio.
Okay.
And so WMWV since I got here,
Uh-huh.
and the that type of music, definitely a 70s, 60s, a little bit of the 80s music, but yeah.
You listen to WBLM?
Who?
WBLM? That's
Oh,
the,
yeah. The Portland radio station.
Yeah.
For sure.
The hard rock station.
Yeah. So those are the two stations on my radio.
Uh-huh. Very nice. And and even though you drove 4.5 hours each way to a show last night in Saratoga Springs, you are still fresh.
Friday night.
Friday night, okay. All right.
Yeah.
So it's not just,
Yeah.
coming in
Yeah.
this morning.
Yeah. And then we messed around in Schenectady. I said it right.
All right.
And there's a casino that they built in Schenectady in 2017, I think.
So it's brand new.
Brand new. Walked in, lost $60 over 2 hours, the two of us. So
$60 isn't bad.
isn't bad for a walk.
And you still have a shirt on.
I still have my shirt.
Yeah. Now,
Might have a hole.
Is your daughter here in town, Madison?
So Maddie,
Yeah.
yes, Maddie is back in town. She went to Brett School. She was one of the first kids at the new high school
Okay.
after they built the new high school in Kennett. And then she graduated Kennett like fourth in her class, then floundered a little bit. Oh, didn't flounder a little bit then. She then immediately went to St. Michael's in Burlington.
Okay.
Graduated Burlington.
Mm-hmm.
Then wasn't sure or what was happening, and moved to Philadelphia. Applied for Teach for America. Was accepted. Went through that Teach for America program and then got her master's in teaching.
Wow. And she's what, 26, 27 now?
She just had her birthday a week ago, and she's 29.
That's a lot of experience and the appropriate amount of floundering. It sounds like, because you can't really choose the right path until you've taken a few detours.
Yeah. And part of the deal with Teach for America is you commit to I think 3 years in an inner city.
Mm-hmm.
So she taught for 3 years in Camden, New Jersey.
Okay.
And then I drove down to Philadelphia like 2 years ago, loaded all her stuff up,
Mm-hmm.
and she's teaching at the Brett School.
Ah, that must be so nice to have her nearby.
So she's back at the Brett School, which she's home. So
That's great.
That's great.
What does she teach?
Last year, because of COVID, she taught, I think, 3 grades.
Okay.
And did multiple classes.
Mm-hmm.
But now she signed a full contract. Last year was a partial contract. This year is a full contract, and she'll be with the kindergarten.
Oh, that's cool.
So, yeah.
What do you remember about your first years with her, and what kind of support you had in terms of just being a dad? Maybe the extra, I don't know what that would be, but
I changed my ways when she was 1. I had a terrible illness. I developed something called empyema, and I ended up on an operating table for 4 hours, and I guess almost died. And
it must have been a pretty profound moment.
So it was, and then I just remember my boss wouldn't let me come back to work for months because, he just didn't want me to come back. A boss that came and visited me every day while I was in the hospital. So I was a party animal, and so.
Was that when you were here, or
that
back
was
in Marble?
That was before we moved here.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is like 1990. She was born in 92. So I guess it was after my son was born and my son was 1 year old that I kind of did a life change. And then 2 years later we moved up here.
Mm-hmm.
But the earliest things I remember one day my wife was working, and all of a sudden I could not find Maddie, and went searching around the house. Couldn't find her. And
I bet the panic is
The
increasing.
panic so totally set in.
Yeah.
Had everybody on the street, neighbors, looking for her. And I found her asleep under a pile of clothes. So that's like, you just realize how dear the kids are.
How fragile.
Fragile. And I had another, like, even a worse scare right before Jake passed away. My son, Jake, Nick Colcord were all out in my shop, and there was a terrible accident. I had just finished the divorce, and I had moved back into the house. Had just bought a TV at Walmart, had set up the TV, and I saw like flashing lights, and I didn't think anything of it. And then I realized there's more flashing lights, fire engine lights. Then I realized they were in my yard. And I ran downstairs, and I just found my son with his face burned off. And I just never, ever felt that way. And I never want to feel that way again. And so Nick's dad, Rich, who was our fire chief, he walked in and he said, "Mark, I've seen this before. He's going to be okay." And I chased the ambulance to Huggins, and the helicopter was waiting, and they knocked him out. And then I swear I saw that helicopter when I got closer to Maine Med, and they kept him in a induced coma for a few days, and thank God he didn't breathe any of the fire into his lungs.
Yeah.
And just so grateful.
Yeah. Yeah. That's I think what it is. To be a parent is to have your heart in your throat all the time. Because one thing
Yep.
Yeah.
And then, it was during my divorce, and it was just like a truce moment
Yeah.
with Nancy, and that's all we could think about.
Yeah.
But thank gosh, he's he's mended and married and bought a house, and yeah.
Could
So
you ask for anything better?
no,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. Where is he?
They bought a house in Freedom.
Okay.
He's worked many jobs. Over the years, he's wanted to go into law enforcement, applied to be border patrol. Just figured out that he didn't want to do that route. He's been a jail guard. Then most recently, he was like security at Memorial Hospital for like four years.
Mm-hmm.
But now is following a career he wants to be a propane technician.
Mm-hmm.
So he's driving a propane truck and waiting to get on with some school for being a propane tech. And he has a side gig,
Mm-hmm.
with some friends.
Oh man, that's just so sweet to have them happy and healthy and near.
Yeah.
And you don't have grandkids yet.
I don't have grandkids yet.
Yeah. But I bet that'll be an interesting moment. Should that happen? Should they choose that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Mark, I wanted to thank you for sitting
You're
down
welcome.
with me. It was so nice to get to know you, and thank you for sharing that. That's such a, I think that is our shared concern, and our shared nightmare. So, feel ya. Yeah. All right. Thanks.
I got to go back to the Barnstormers.
Yeah. What are you doing over there?
Just little railings out front.
Yeah.
We did a lot of work there last year.
It looks good.
Yeah,
I don't know who's doing the painting. But
Well,
that really,
Kevin Sayers.
Okay.
Yeah, but we went ahead of him this year and fixed a lot of things, and then he painted.
Yeah.
But last year we did a lot of the new roof on everything that wasn't metal,
Yeah.
and did some big time structural repair work that
Yeah.
was needed.
Yeah.